Hi, Ann Cornick from Paintnporcelain, and I'm here to teach beginners how to China paint and keep those that have been painting a while, interested in China painting. But I'm also here for the non-China painter to kind of tell you about porcelain painting and also as an art form. So for those of you that are new to China painting, we paint on blank. And there are two kinds of blanks that I use frequently. Other people can use other things, but I use tiles quite a bit because they're handy, they're cheap. I can get them nearby, and they're easy. They're a good small piece to paint on. And then you can use fine china. And this is a sample. This is a light switch plate that I actually got from Ryan China, but they've been out of business now for quite a while. And it's a fine piece of porcelain. You can see on the back, it's a white porcelain piece. This is a lot easier to paint on than this is. This is a little more difficult. You can see it's not the fine china on the back, but we always start with blanks. And then we draw on our pattern. And here I've drawn on a little hummingbird and some flowers that I am going to paint today for you. We use a powder paint, looks like this, in a little vial, and we pour it on we have a tile that we pour it onto, like this, and we mix it with a knife and some oil. The oil I use is mineral oil, and we form a paste that we use as a paint. We paint it on using an oil. I use Terpenoid Natural and turpentine. Or something like that to clean our brushes. And we use large brushes up to, big ones as well as small ones. And today I'm going to be using some small brushes. I'm going to be using this. I'm not sure what size this is. I got this from a Dresden painter, that Birgit Porter. These are really good brushes. And they have like a rounded, almost like a filbert top on them. It's great for birds. I also have a pointer. This is one from Jane Houston. And then this is a Scharf brush. It's called a square shader because it's flat at the top. And it is a 1/4 inch one, and I use that quite a bit, so I will be using that today. So I am going to be using a whole bunch of different colors on this because it's a hummingbird. I'm going to be using, what is this? This is Nut. Big help. But it has slightly red tones, and I'm glad of that because I'm going to be using red, so I want to make sure it goes with that. I'm also using rich brown. I'm going to use Cool Shadow, Celadon, which is a green, Celadon. I'm going to use a dark purple, but I'm going to use it lightly. Then I have Reflected Light, Carnation, which is a vibrant red. I'm using that sparingly too. A chartreuse and an olive green. And the reason I'm using some of those colors lightly, I personally think that works much better to do a light coat and paint more coats than to paint a heavy coat. And then sometimes that can pop off because all of our work has to be fired in a kiln. So let me show you a sneak peek of the project. Originally, when I started doing these tiles, I'll show you the two I've already done. This is my rose tile. And this is the violet tile. Originally, I was going to do coasters. Then I was at a thrift store, and I came across this piece. And I'm holding it way back so you can see it. It's to hang coats on or purses or something, and it's to put on your wall. And I really thought this would be neat because a lot of times when you think of China painting, you think, another paint plate or another teacup. But it's not. We do a lot of things. We do jewelry, we do ornaments, we do all kinds of things. So this, I thought would be something different. These holes are 4x4s. And these tiles will eventually go into these holes, and I will repaint the board a different color to complement the tiles. So that's the project that I'm working on. So this is my little bird. Now, I'm not going to be putting background on because, as you can remember from the other pieces, I really didn't have a lot of background on. When you use these brushes to put on feathers, you start with the lowest feather and work your way up with my square shader because I know what I want to do. Okay, I'm going to take my reflected light and I'm going to start at his tail and just add in the little tail feathers, okay? And I'm going to start at the base and add some in. And what I'm doing is, and I'll show you on this tile, I'm just pulling it down to make those little feathers. Or if you want them more rounded, pull a little up and they'll have a rounded end on them. Just depends what you're looking for. I'm going to do that there. I'm going to do a few here just to kind of layer them. And I'm going to do a couple up in here. There we go. I don't mind that too much at all. Now I'm going to take a little nut and mix with it because the bird that I'm doing has a lot of brown on his breast. And as you can see, I'm trying to leave a little bit of space here and there so it looks like it's actually on his chest. And then I'm going to do a little more up in here. I'm glad that those of you that are painters found me. You know, China painting is very much like watercolor. So if you're a watercolor artist and you're considering trying something new, China painting may be for you. We have to leave our white. So like you do, we paint with negative space. So you see here I've left white, here I've left white, and kind of around there I've left some white because I want it to look like feathers, but I don't want to use up all the entire area. And to me that's very important. Okay, now here this little guy has little tiny pieces, little tiny flicks under his chin. So I'm going to do those like that. And then it gets into a different color. So let's go to reflected light. It's better if you have a choice to use a lighter color than to use a darker color initially. You can always make it darker, but you can't make it lighter. If you cover up where you want to have the highlights, then you're going to lose it. Now I'm doing that little side motion, that little dip. And I want these to be a little darker as we go up. There we go. Okay, that seems to be working pretty well. Now I'm going to do a little bit of color. This little guy has a little bit of color around his eye. So I'm going to make it a little more colorful up in here. I'm on a turntable, so I can turn things around. China painters always try to paint towards themselves. Okay. I'm going to clean my brush now because at a certain point you kind of get too much on there and you start messing up your paints. If you want a pure color, it's important that you, as much as possible, you know, use the pure color. Now, over the top of him, on his little crest, I'm going to put a little bit of blue. That's kind of what I think I would enjoy. And then next time I can add other colors to it. So I'm just going to add it like this. Start right there. Let's do a little more blue. This is Cool Shadow, and I'm just going to take it across the top of his head and sort of fade it into that. Now I think I might do better with this brush. Here we go. Alrighty. Yeah, and I think I'm just going to kind of put them through like that. Well, let me just finish this guy up here. I want to have a little more color in there. There we go. Much better. Okay. And I'm going to take this is my scroller or liner, as we call them. And I'm going to put it in the black. And I'm going to draw out his little beak. That's enough right now. I think anything more and I might wreck it. And then here I'm going to do a little eye. Oops, I need more black. And just tease it around there very gently. Now, when I get done with this, it will be available at my booth at Plaza Antiques and Collectibles Mall, which is in Lincoln Park, Michigan. And then I'll just add a little more black up in here. So here I want to put a few little feathers out there. You see that? Okay. Because I just think that that makes him a little more believable. Now, I'm going to work on these feathers on either side there, but I think I'm going to start with the tail. On the tail, I'm going to do a little blue. I'm going to make these blue. I don't want them quite that dark, so I tap it on my towel and I just pull it out and I'll put a little blue down here. One of the problems with using a pen or a pencil to draw with is that it, on the first fire, it mixes in with your paint a little bit and it can give you a false sense of what's there and what's not. So be very careful. Try to use your colors without smearing what's already there. Now I'm going into a purple. And I think I want it to be a deeper purple towards the bird. So I'm going to do it this way so that I'm painting towards his body. And I'm loading my brush. This is interesting. I'm loading my brush only with a side load back to my 1/4 inch. I have better luck with it. I learned with it. It's been my faithful companion for years. If you're a new painter, you may not be as comfortable with a larger brush like this, and you may want to try something different. Now I have to go back up and just touch them up here. There we go. Yeah, you have to be so careful not to get into your own work. I also use Q-tips from time to time because I kind of smeared things there. There we go. And cut it back. There we go. Okay. Now let's go back to the purple. And I'm going to try very hard not to get into my paint up there. And pull the purple in. I'm turning it just a little so that I don't get my hand in that paint up above. There we go. And here we go. I think that's pretty, the purple down there. And I'm just going to pull a little more purple down this way just to have it at the base so I know where it ends, because this will fire off in the kiln and I won't be able to see the colors that I have on here. So I have to make sure, I won't be able to see where things end because it'll just become white if I don't have any paint on it. All right, now I'm going to switch over and start putting more blue down in here. Just because I feel like it. This is not a real bird. This is my version of the bird, okay? Alrighty. And here I'm going to do this. This. And this. And I'm going to take a little purple and put it at the base. So we see a separation. Now you can use, if you have a brush, a tool like this, you can use that to draw a little separation there, just so you know where it is. There. And sometimes that helps too. Okay, I'm going to take my Q-tip and I'm just going to get the purple off his body. These are his little feet. And they're kind of a black or a dark brown. I think I'm just going to make them a dark brown at this time. And they're not real well defined when they're tucked up like this. So I'm just going to, there, do it like that so we have them. So we know they're there. I don't want to lose them. Okay, now we'll do the wings. Now for my wings, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch brush again. And this time I'm going to use kind of an unusual combination. I'm going to use my Celadon, which is a green, and I'm going to do a full load. I'll show you what I'm doing. Full load of Celadon and a side load of shading, Cool Shadow. Cool Shadow has enough gray in it that when you do it this way, it's going to look pretty nice, and it's going to give you a pretty color. And I'm just going to pull it towards the bird's breast, and you can see a little bit of the green on the end now. It's not as green as I would like it to be, so I've got a little more green here. There we go. And I'm going to put that in my turpentine, clean off my brush, and try again. This time I'm going to put a little more Celadon on and just a tad of the blue. And I'm going to start and just do these feathers. I'm pulling down because I want the end to have that feathery look to it. And I'm separating them because I want it to look a little more ethereal than they normally do. Now I'm going to go back the other way. The same load. And I'm just going to make this area up here a little darker. And I'm taking my time. And I'm trying to connect it a little bit to what's going on underneath by lining up some of these rows, if I can. I'm not going to spend tons of time on it because I think a one and done is better than a constant redo. And then I'm just going to smooth out the top there. And I really like the dark. Let me get a little more of the dark here. I want a little darker here. Yeah, I like that. I'm just touching the very edge of that. Okay. And then I'm holding way back on my brush, and I'm just lightly trying to get some of those lines out of there so it looks more smooth. Okay, I'm going to take my Q-tip and just clean up these edges here. Okay, let me start with the leaves and the stem. If I do the stem, I have to do it with my scroller. So I'm going to clean my scroller, get my stem here. I'm going to do it with a little bit of nut and a little bit of green. And I'm just going to pull it. Oops, there and there. Kind of got off the track here, so let's just get that up. Nice thing about China painting, unlike watercolor, is you can wipe it up if you don't like what you did. You can change it. And then here, I'm going to do this guy like this and this. And this guy I might just redo. There we go. Okay. I'm happy with that. So I've laid the groundwork. I want to do some of these leaves. So I'm going to do them with, I'm going to do a load of Celadon. Normally you full load with the lightest color. And I'm going to take a little bit of nut and side load. And I'm just going to start here and go down And I'm going to do the same thing anywhere that it has to go down like that. There we go. I'm real happy with the way this is turning out. I want a little more nut on here. There we go. Now, this is the tricky part. You got to be careful not to get in what you've already painted. And I want this to have more of a peak at the top. That's better. There we go. That's better. And take a little solid on and add it in because I want a little more green. And down here I want to do this a little. I'm going to take a little chartreuse, mix it with my celadon. There we go. Now this I didn't like, so I'm just gonna, there. That's not exactly what I want, but let me, there we go. And if you find that you're having trouble with what you drew, remember, at this point, you don't have to follow what you drew. You can always change it over. There we go. Now, you need to wipe out some highlights if you want highlights on these leaves at this point. Otherwise, you're not going to have them. So here, I'm going to, I take and I dip my brush into my turpentine, wipe off my brush very well so it doesn't run. And just pull some of these highlights in. I want to highlight here. When you're wiping a highlight in, don't just do it in one spot, kind of carry it down like that, see? If I just did it here, I'd have a line. But if I carry it down, here, come on, then you see the highlight, but you also see the other work that's there. Okay. The other thing you could do if you need to is use your Q-tip and just do a little bit of it, but be careful because your Q-tip is going to leave a line or it can make a big space and you won't want that. All right, now I'm going to work on these flowers up here, I think. Oops, I still, well, yeah, I'll work on those. So I'm going to start with a little bit of nut and a little bit of reflected light, and I'm just going to, oh, that's not working. Hang on. No, that's not working for me. I know what I want. Okay, let me wipe those out. Okay, I think I'm just going to use my big brush. It worked before, so we'll see if it'll work again. Yeah, it does. Look, that's what I want. I want it to be almost like a little ombre. Like that. That's perfect. want it to be an ombre effect, where it's darker at the base, lighter at the top. Darker at the top and lighter at the base. So you start at the bottom, you pull it up, and then you deposit so you're only side loading your brush. You'd start at the bottom, bring it up, and then just when you hit it with the corner of your brush, it will deposit the color that you want there. That's it. Now, you notice I am changing it a little as I paint, and that's because I may decide, well, I don't really like the pattern I have there, or my brush is not cooperating with me, and I know if I just do it a little bit differently, it'll cooperate with me. So that's something else to consider. You can change as you go. You don't have to follow what you drew. Okay, we're going back into the Celadon for the side here. And I'm going to use I'm going to do a full load of Celadon, a side load of olive. I love olive. And I'm just going to put the leaves in down here. And you can make them as funky as you want. See what I'm doing? I'm pulling them out a little bit to make them look more like something a little extraordinary. You can do that. It's entirely up to you. This is your painting. Whatever you decide is good. Just be careful. I have a line here. And I don't want that line. And I don't know if the line is where I drew it, or if the line is from paint. But if it's from paint, it will stay there. One way to get rid of it that I use is this. So I'll take that over there. I take my towel and I rub my finger on my towel, my little finger, and then I just tap it. And that usually will get rid of any lines that are there. And then I can go back, make sure your brush is clean, make sure it has oil on it, that it doesn't have turp on it, and just pull it so you get rid of the line. Alrighty, so okay, this is my hummingbird so far. Now I'm firing it like this, and the reason I'm firing it like this is because next time then, this is the basis of what I want. I will fire it, and then I will go ahead and add more to it. Okay, pick up those brushes, keep painting, and I will see you next time.